first I have to figure out how to actually work this. 30 seconds to light. This is super advanced. 2 buttons, green and red, back and forth. I hope you all are pumped up. No? Long night yesterday? Don't you know that everything will change? Isn't that why you're here today? I am super excited. Everything will change. The only thing we know, the only thing we can know for sure, is a change is going to happen. If you look back in history, you can take for granted that major achievements will come. When I looked back in my research, I said, let's not look forward, let's rather look backwards. Because there's so many things that had happened in our life the last 250, 300 years that had changed your life. Can you imagine living in Sweden 100 years ago? No? You would have been poor, you would have been hungry, and you would have been cold. But thanks to the industrial revolutions and the changes that happened to society, you are today well-fed, you have money in your bank account, and you have security. These innovation cycles that has happened to the world over and over again are going faster and faster. Looking at the innovation cycle, like the MIT Economics Research Study, says that it's gone from 60 years to 25 years in these waves that are changing the world. If you look on the statistics, if you look on the data, you'll see that the build-up phase for every wave that we have gone through that is changing the world has led to a big leap in improvements of the world. We know that the Industrial Revolution was building up to the Great British Leap when they took over the world. We know that the railway mania actually led to the Victorian boom and the railroads. We know that the age of steel and heavy engineering led to the progressive era. And we also know that in the 20s, before the World War, they were building up to the greatest economic leap in history. What we don't know is how the technology revolution is going to change our world forever. We also know that the entrepreneurial value is at an all-time high. You look at Amazon and you say, that's a big company. They make a lot of money, and it made Jeff Bezos even more money. But if you look on the data and the stats, you actually can see that it took them from the 90s to generate that amount of value. And you also know that the companies that are unicorns today, they were started in 2015. What does this mean, and what impact does that have to you? It has a lot. Because the way we work, the tools, the methodologies has been refined from the days of the Amazons till the startups of today, and companies are lagging behind. So these revolutions, these waves has caused an everlasting impact to society. What we know for sure is that the world will never be the same again. And these revolutions, they are bringing us forward, but at what cost are they bringing us forward? And what we will do to the rest of society. So we are here today, and now I'm going to cool it a little bit because I was a little bit excited in the beginning, but now I'm panning out. We are here to talk about AI and data. And why does that make sense to talk about? Well, first of all, we're at the Data Innovation Summit. And you are all here because you have an interest in, or you're working with, or you want to learn of. And AI is the value-generating process when it comes to data. That's where you actually make the conclusions. So AI, in a sense, has been around since the 50s when it was first established as a research field. But today, we are talking about something else. We are talking about the practical implications. The first cohort of entrepreneurs utilizing AI They didn't do it in the beginning. They actually started doing that 10, 20 years ago. And what we're seeing now, if they could create massive amounts of value without AI and the data infrastructure we have today, what will this do for us? I'm going to show you a McKinsey slide. Everybody has to have a McKinsey slide or a BCG slide or a Gartner slide, and I'm no exception. And what I want to pinpoint with this, without you breaking your necks, because that's usually what you do with the McKinsey slides, is that they did a simulation, and I think this is super interesting with some of their latest research. How will companies that are existing today draw benefits in 2023 and up until 2030? So existing companies. And these simulations basically pinpoints that they will see an improved gain on a general basis up to 26% gross and 14% net. Do you know what that means? Take the H&Ms of the world. Take the large corporations that are everywhere. And if they increase profits gross with 26% in 7 or 8 years, do you understand how much value that is? Do you understand how much faster the world will go? And the opportunities that lies with AI and data? Of course you do. You're at the Data Innovation Summit. But this is dangerous. Because statistically speaking, in a simulation way, we know that those that are leading the way will actually outperform drastically those that are lagging behind if you look on these simulations. Those companies that doesn't adopt AI and a data-driven way of working, they will lag behind. Just that those that don't apply DevOps, those that don't utilize modern technologies, modern ways of working, they will lag behind. And if you're just a follower in the game, saying, I'm going to wait until the competitors have done it, and then I'm going to take the proven route, can you see the difference between 122 and 10? Even I can make that math. So what and why are these leaders focusing on? There was a great study presented by Thomas Davenport. And if you don't know Thomas Davenport, then you should read up a little bit, because he's a really great guy. He was one of the inventors of customer lifetime value, for instance, done some great calculations. He's a professor, publishes all the time in MIT. And he started looking at these things. And one case study in particular that he was looking at was, how do a laggard in the industry, let's take banking, go from being a laggard to almost a leader? How do they go from not using AI and data to becoming data-driven? And this bank in particular is a study he published. It was on Nova Scotia Bank in Canada. And he asked the people in there, so how did you go from not doing anything to doing a lot of things? And he was in there and looking around. The thing that they did was not saying AI is going to revolutionize our business. AI is going to come up with a brilliant new idea. AI is going to help us turn the volume up to max. Today, we can't hardly hear our customers. What if we start with improving operational efficiency? We look at the things we're doing today, and while looking at the things we're doing today, we take AI and say, let's do it better. So just as they say in the book, Learning Machines, we can turn the volume up to max, but you can't turn it any longer. But to get value today, not in 3 years, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, not to be a laggard, not to be a follower, but to be a leader, start with what you have on the table. So improve operational efficiency is a key differentiator for those companies that actually are successful. Can you do forecasting better than utilizing Excel sheets with AI and data? Of course you can, so why don't you just do it? Improving processes is so much easier than changing processes. The hardest thing you can do in a company is to go to a department and say, now you need to work completely different. But if you tell them, work the same way, just take decision on these points instead, all of a sudden, implementation is easy. And then, of course, build capability for tomorrow's business. Capabilities doesn't mean build a cool neural network model that's going to change everything. Capabilities are the things you utilize to improve your business and drive the new things. And then reduce costs, of course, because who doesn't want to reduce cost? And primarily these things are then related to full-time employees or processes that are really slow. So in 2019, and this is a study hopefully everybody interested in AI and data has read, so hopefully I'm just iterating, but I'm getting to a very good point, so bear with me. In 2019, the MIT Sloan review, together with BCG, I have to have both BCG and McKinsey in the same presentation, otherwise they'll be mad. They realized that there were significant challenges to remain with many AI initiatives. What they said was that 7 out of 10 companies has no impact from AI so far. They also said that only 2 out of 5 businesses report any gains from AI. And 3 out of 5 had benefits if they did invest. However, this means that 40% making significant investments in AI has no benefits. They are burning money. And you would be surprised how many companies I've spoken to that make millions and millions in the hundreds of investments and don't see any ROI. So, what does this mean? This means that we, in 2019, started to see limited impact. We did see impact. A few companies were leading the way on how to do these things. In 2019, we saw initiatives here and there, very manually, going into productions. And I'm not talking about the tech companies that were leading the way in certain things. I was talking about traditional enterprises that many of you work for. They were limited and scattered initiatives here and there with limited impact in the organization. But something happened. Around 2019, the conversation changed. I even think at Data Innovation Summit, we started changing the agenda a little bit from getting started to actually scaling out. We started seeing more and more companies making the right investments and started initiating more, expanding and industrializing at scale to get to a point where we started to see transformative impact from AI and data. So back that up a little bit with a study as well. Back to my friend Thomas Davenport, who actually works for the MIT Sloan Review. He just released this study. In 2022, they started seeing that 92% of large companies are achieving returns of their data and AI investment. In 3 years, we have gone from limited impact, you have gone from limited impact to seeing major returns of investment. We are seeing that 26% of companies might sound small, but they have widespread AI in productions. And you know what more? The investments are increasing. Everything will change. But what we also see is that now that we're starting to see benefits of these things, we start seeing problems. We start seeing the problems that a key challenge of this is that AI could actually widen the gaps among countries, companies, and workers. Although AI can deliver a great boost, as McKinsey showed, at what cost? Just as the Industrial Revolution has made us in certain countries, especially here in the West, extremely rich and wealthy, we see that this is unevenly distributed. So a quote I like to use is that the future, as we see it, is here. You are here. You are seeing the future. You are the future. But we are special. Because we here, we are the top 1% of the world. Which also means that we need to start focus on the impact of these changes. We need to make sure that the people in this room, outside of these rooms, with very smart brains and high capacity, don't just optimize for clicking a button. You don't just spend time selling another garment. You spend your times on things that actually have a positive impact on the world. Make change happen. Be the change. Because as a result of these extremely rapid changes in production, we're starting to see more and more problems. I myself is responsible for many of them, as I worked as a data scientist, but I want that to change. What I'm passionate about is, I don't think we will achieve any changes by just taking away consumption. We will not see any changes just by optimizing and improving and selling more. We need to change at its core. What if we could still sell things but not ship them over the entire world? What if we don't ship cans of Coca-Cola consisting 99% of water from one part of the world to another part of the world? What if we can completely, with AI, revolutionize the way we consume? Consumption in itself is not the problem. It's the by-effect of consumption that is the problem. So why don't we stop with just doing operational efficiencies and actually start building the businesses of tomorrow? Because the tools that you need are right here in this room, and the people you need to work with are right here in this room. So, the risks of the AI revolution, to nicely try to tie it all back to something, the risks of the AI revolution goes way beyond the environmental and the social impact. The AI revolution, if it's following the prognosis, if we're doing our jobs right, will completely change everything. And those of you that do math, the only constant in this equation is change. Because what we know, and what we can only know for sure, is that if I were to speak to my grandchildren or my grandchildren's grandchildren in 100 years, they would look back at this era and say, this is where it all started. Oh, I wished I could be a part of the changes that all of you now are actually driving and implementing. When you're sitting here at your desk, in your office, implementing all of these things, it might seem like everyday work. But if you put all of these pieces together, all of the hard work, stack it on top of each other, you are changing the world bit by bit. You are responsible for the future, so take accountability of the future as well. Don't just say, I did it, because now we have the opportunity to do it right. Do no harm, do good, because the tools at your disposal are the most powerful tools that's ever been invented. And with that, we can guide and we can steer the world. What we know is that if you are here today, you are the top 1% in the world. Technology-wise, education-wise, money-wise, social-wise. Be responsible. Be the change you want to see in the world. Don't just consume, innovate, drive, lead. We can make an impact, and we can change. Because everything will change. Thank you.